Hi there and welcome to the Dragonborn Industries channel. I am Steph, aka Little Goblin Girl, and with me today I have Ian, the Dragonborn Bard, and also the wonderful creator of the Cunning Folk, Emily Greymoore. Hello, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure.
We are delighted to be chatting with you because we have run the Cunning Folk as our Christmas one-shot for the channel. Yay! We had so much fun with it. The ability to go feral was really key.
Listen, I needed a game where it was okay to go feral and encouraged, and this was just, yes, I'm so glad.
Yeah, it definitely opened up that in a big way. I think once the players sort of realised, oh, we can do anything, they went for it big time. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about the Cunning Folk. What is the general premise of the system?
Basically that. So I came up with the Cunning Folk as a way to combat every single game that kind of TTRPG specifically that focuses on folklore, fairy tale creatures. It's 9 times out of 10 you're hunting those creatures. You're finding them, dispatching them, figuring out what they're doing and getting rid of them in some way. No. I wanted to be the fairy tale creature. I thought it was wickedly unfair that they get the short end of the stick every time and they are villainized when a lot of the time they're the ones that were, wronged in the first place. They're only doing their shenanigans because they wanted revenge on something. Maybe you were promised to give them your firstborn, and maybe you decided to go back on that promise, and they were pretty pissed. Maybe you didn't invite them to a party, like Maleficent, and they got pretty pissed about that. Whatever it is, they have every right to take revenge on you and your shenanigans, so that's basically what the Cunning Folk is. You get to pick from one of 5 archetypes, skin it any way you want, whatever kind of resonates with you, whether it's from some kind of folklore you already know from around the world, or whether it's something completely brand new. And then just, like you said, go feral. You pick the person that you want revenge against, and the whole party basically has a reason why they want revenge against this person, or multiple people if you want to be complex about it. And just through the game, you are finding out about that person, you're finding out their weaknesses, what they care about the most, and then using that against them to get the most satisfying ending you could possibly get for your party. And during that time, you get to level up, get bigger in power and size, and shrink back down again, and it's just chaos and shenanigans and hilarity, and it's great. It's very hard to summarize.
Well, you say that
in one line.
You say that, and obviously, I got to sit behind the screen, and I got to watch you run it, and I got to see the system in play. And you say right now that it's all about the chaos, but actually, there's a really awesome structure to it that I saw with the leveling up and the leveling down. You say about growing in size and coming back down, and I really, really like that, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. But from my point of view, where did the inspiration for the game come from? Obviously, I know you said that you just wanted to play it from the fairy tale creature's point of view, but then was it a predisposition love you have for the fae, for the fairy tales and for things like that? Is it something that you grew up with? Where did the idea where was the original spark?
I think, obviously being British as well, we kind of grow up with these incredible stories of the fae of the British Isles. It's very kind of in the DNA, I think, of the legends and folklore of the British Isles. There's so many little critters and fables and stories about the elves and goblins and redcaps and all these kind of little things that kind of have stayed with us through the centuries and through these stories. I've always been fascinated with those. Brian Froud is a huge inspiration to me. I absolutely adore his work, and obviously growing up with the Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal, that all kind of stayed in my brain. Gonna sound... Listen, I'm a monster lover, but not in the way that sounds.
You're in good company. It's fine. We get it.
Don't know her well enough to rip.
Listen, it was really hard for me to come out on an interview and just say, listen, I'm a monster lover.
This is a safe space, Emily. It's fine.
No judgment. We don't kink shame. It's
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The here is great. Any excuse for me to be able to play something monstrous in a way that isn't necessarily usual. I like to subvert the form a lot. So something that may look monstrous maybe isn't in actuality. Something that looks beautiful is actually incredibly monstrous. You know, like, I love kind of playing with that form. And I think all of those things combined, that love of fairy tale, that love of the dark and gritty, and those original fairy tales where they were a little bit more gruesome. What's it like on the other side? We always see it from the hero's perspective. I wanted to subvert that, and I wanted to really sort of dig into the other side of the story a lot more and sort of play with those creatures more. So there's a lot of things that influenced me growing up, and yeah, I wanted to really explore that and get to be those things for once, instead of always persecuting them.
And I think, you know, in game, I think that's something the players really kind of latched onto quite quickly. There was a period before we started where they were filling out their character sheets, and I mean the ability to kind of draw how your character looks at each level. It was like a kind of like primary school classroom in here. They were all like heads down, doing their little doodles. Actually, like, they all produced something absolutely incredible, which we will share on socials and everything. That. But the getting to describe those aesthetic changes so quickly and so concordantly, I think with each level up and level down, they got a little bit bolder and a little bit more vengeful, and then full on let's just murder.
There definitely was an element of murder hobo that came into it, which was interesting because watching it from my perspective, where you are Cornish through and through, and so the myths, the legends, and those creatures, they are so rife within your kind of like culture and within that Cornish heritage. Whereas I'm from Nottingham, where the only myth we've got is a man who stole from other people. And
listen, that could still be
Robin Hood had a
Cunning Folk.
rogue. And that's the thing. And like, so everybody who was around the table really like laid into that. And you were right, they did sit there for like half an hour. And like like Jack won't mind me saying this, he is not an artist. He doesn't go out of his way to draw, doesn't doodle or anything like that. And even he was like really into it. It's like even on the
I love that. That's great.
Even on the character sheets alone, like being able to watch this, because usually I'm GMing or I'm taking part in some way, so I got to sit back and just watch people play a game, which for me is great because I don't get to do that very often. So like just watching them all do something creative, which is something that I adore. Well done, because like you've got people who don't normally draw to begin drawing, and then they like really played on your Cornish heritage thing, which you don't have to run the game with like your own personal heritage or anything, but you were right, it fits into anywhere, and you can take these myths, these legends from all over the world and be like, right, let's place it here, and the spirits have been irked. And you did this beautiful thing where you were like, right, the Cornish traditions, that people are stopping doing them, and then went with it, and they all really lent into it. So
I mean, because we're very lucky that we're from a place where we have a lot of folklore. And going through the archetypes, I was like, okay, we've got one for that, we've got one for that, we've got one for that. So it was quite easy to sort of roll it out.
Inspirations. I was like, there we are.
It was incredible, and your system really lends itself not only to that, but then to creative gameplay. And what I saw was this very player-led narrative. You had a story and you'd written like a small hook, and you'd gone, right, this is kind of the series of events that I want to happen. Here's my skeleton. And they really, really put the meat onto it. And it was like, when you were first writing the system and putting it together, was that how you want it to be, like this like character-led narrative?
I wanted a game that was... There's a lot of work that goes onto a GM's plate or a DM's plate, and I wanted to sort of like lift that off their shoulders a little bit with this game, especially as I'm a very sort of timid, well, I say timid,
Me too.
I'm very scared of GMing. Is what I'll say. And I didn't want, whenever I look at sort of new TTRPGs or pick up a new system, I picked up Old Gods of Appalachia when it came out, and it looks incredible. When I really want to run it, it looks incredibly daunting as well. There's a lot to learn and figure out, and it's a very complex system. But then on the other side, when I look at those very rules-light one-page things, for me as a GM as well, there's not enough structure. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, will I be any good at this? Because I don't know what to really do. Anyway, this is issues with myself, so I decided I'm going to make a game where it kind of fits nicely in the middle. Yeah. So it's simple, but there's also structure, and it allows the players to do a lot of the work for the GM. The GM's just there to kind of facilitate and sort of like react against them. So as they are interacting with the humans in the world, the GM just goes, okay, this is what the human's going to do in response to that, instead of having to make this very complicated either maths decision hit the dice, or have to have a very big plot drawn out ahead of time. Yeah. You can make new characters very, very easily and very simply. You can just roll with whatever the people do. You're not rolling against them. You're not having to do any kind of like things behind a screen. It's just, for me, it was a nice middle of structure and simplicity, and not having to give the GM a whole plethora of things to do just to get people to play the game with them.
Absolutely. I think you strike that balance incredibly well with the Cunning Folk. Like, I literally had 3 bullet points for the wrongdoer, and I think I wrote like a sentence as the plot hook, and then it was just perfect. and it was it was great. And I think I think it's very, very good in terms of getting players involved with RP as well, because I know a lot of people who are coming new to TTRPGs can find it quite intimidating and daunting. But I think the system you've created lends itself to kind of laying out a little charcuterie board of lovelies, and then it's picking up little bits, as you say, little bits here, little bits there, and getting that and it builds and builds and builds, and the more comfortable they get. And again, I think it comes back to like that leveling up and down so quickly, because they're always thinking, oh, at the next level I'm going to do this, at the next level I'm going to do that. It was seeing the table kind of come alive with that was really, really special. And as I say, like I've been dagging to play this for ages, and I think the vibe you've created around it is smashing. It hits that middle ground of like real, rolling and numbers, but also then the RP, it just hits that sweet spot of let's get a group of friends together and have some fun with this.
Absolutely. That makes my day. That's so wonderful to hear.
Well, I mean, to build on that as well is that not only all of those points are very accurate, very true, and you should definitely be proud of what you created, because I think Steph is right. You hit the mark right in the middle for both expert players, veteran players, and newbies. Because what we found is we had a table of players who necessarily hadn't played together before. We had one person who hadn't streamed or hadn't recorded before, and everybody dived in. But something I wanted to pull upon is the fact that not only RP-wise was that, it was actually the mechanics of the game as well. And for me, I freaking love diving into rule books. I love a mechanic. It's the reason I GM a lot of things is because I'll memorize a rule book like you wouldn't believe. But the fact that it's a D6 system, and that D6 system is quite literally based on, here's your achievement, here's your failure. You only go up or down in the levels based on that, and the dice are equivalent to the level in which you are. And that's then the GM goes, okay, well, I need 2 successes, I need 3 successes, but you can overachieve as well.
Yeah, I love the over success thing. I think, that yes, you do it, but here's the consequence.
Yeah, and I think
you do it so well, in fact.
Well, one might say.
The system is very, very easy to learn, and it really does, like you say, lends to that GMing not having to like think too much about it. You're right, cool, you know that it's all based off this success or failure or over succeed system. But where did the inspiration for that come from? Was that a system that you'd already seen in play? Did you come up with that yourself?
Where do I start with this one? again, it's going back to that. I didn't want you to have to roll a dice, then add or subtract things depending on like your skill level or like your stats and stuff like that. I didn't want to have to mess with that. And I also just wanted to roll a fistful of dice because that always just feels so good. So when you're, for people who don't know the game, when you're at level 5, you do get 5d6 that you can just and have fun with that and see what happens. Of course, if you're doing something simple, you're more likely to over succeed, and as we know, that's not necessarily a good thing. The over succeeding was actually Patrick's idea, because he was saying, actually, wouldn't it be great if, instead of it being if you don't succeed, you fail, you know, the normal kind of stuff, what if there's an over success? Because we initially, the game, when I did start playing with it like a year ago, when I was starting to kind of really put it together, it was going to be a PBTA hack. It was going to be playbooks and stuff, and using that kind of you know, if you sometimes do too well, like there's that 7 to 10, but if you get like over a 10,
so when you're rolling
some
and
of
adding
the
together,
PBTA hacks you do too well and over succeed. So that it kind of had that inspiration, and I just thought that was a fantastic way of, I didn't want the leveling down to be a punishment. I wanted the leveling down and that kind of like fluctuation between the levels to still be fun and feel good. I didn't want a player to feel like, oh, I failed, therefore now I'm weaker. I wanted to make sure that when you did level back down, it was still fun and worth doing. Like, I don't want people to not want to roll or try something in case they're scared of leveling back down. It had to be this balance. So it was a mixture of inspiration from other games, and if anyone is listening, please be inspired by other games. Don't feel like you can't take from other things and like pull into your own system, because if they're popular for a reason. 9 times out of 10.
I mean, if you don't mind me jumping in again, you say about like the success and the scaling back down again, and it wanting to still be fun. And you, again, once more, you absolutely nailed that, because again, the players around the table, they were like, but then, whereas some people, when you roll a d20 and you roll a nat 1 and it becomes like this, some people, you know, they get really disheartened by that, which, you know, fair enough, some people do, some people don't, some people roll with it, but like, I think with your system, it really, really did. It didn't matter which way it went, because it still played into the narrative, it still played into everything, and I think that's, one, a testament to your GMing, and 2, a testament to the system itself, because you absolutely smashed that, like keeping everything about the game fun. And it's something Jack always tries to remind me here at the channel, is like, whatever we do, you have to have fun. If you're not having fun, something's going wrong. And actually, it's, you know, he is there to be my rock on that one, and you nailed it with this system, and these guys really lent themselves to it. And I think that for anybody out there who hopefully is listening, if you want a game that is really easy to run from my perspective of having watched it, and you know, making sure that everybody's having fun right the way through. Like, if your nan's never played a game before, she'll know what a D6 is. You know, everybody's got.
You'll
a
have some in the Monopoly box. It's fine.
See, we all went there. Exactly, and it's just one of those things where I think that you absolutely knocked it out of the park and just kept it true to being fun. And yeah, I mean, we've played Tales of the Old West, which is a D6 system. I've played Alien, and all of these games, you know, it is basically like roll a 6, it's a success, roll a 1, it's a failure. But then you roll on tables to like see how bad it is and stuff like that. And they are designed to be punishing, whereas yours was designed to be narrative, and I freaking love it.
Yeah,
it was so good.
And it's a very giving game, I found, like, and with the archetypes as well, with the magic element of it, just like, and watching the players get excited about the magic and the creativity that they could then pour into flavouring that, I think was amazing. And did you have fun making that magic list?
Oh, I did.
I think you're going to say
I
no.
really did.
I hated it.
No.
Oh, it was so good. I loved it. One of the, again, pulling from fairy tales and, you know, stories, myths and legends, and kind of using those. Obviously, balancing it was an interesting challenge. Just like, this is way overpowered for some level 2. We're gonna have to change that around. but I also, one of the challenging things with the spells when we were doing some play tests was people not, there was like a misunderstanding of like, oh, I can only do these things. Or, it felt very limiting in the first few play tests. So I had to really sort of rework a lot of the wording around, hey, this is stuff you can do a little bit cheaper because it's innate to you and your archetype, but that doesn't mean you can't try anything else. You can absolutely attempt to do anything you want to in terms of mischief. These things just come a little bit more easily for you. So it just gives you a sort of structure to play off of. And like you said, skin it and flavor it however you want. And I love that they did that. That makes me so, so happy. Don't take anything as, as written, make... your vines can be thorns, or they could be giant pumpkins, or like whatever, giant tree, Jack and the Beanstalk, whatever you want to do, whatever suits your character. I love it. I think that's great. But it was very fun.
Yeah, and it is, as we said, it's a very fun system. I've been dagging to bring up the illustrations because not only are you an incredible TTRPG writer, but also an incredibly talented artist. And you did all the artwork for this yourself, didn't you?
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
And obviously we've talked about, I think you can see the inspiration from like classic fairy tales like Grimm and things within that. And I know that you have some other projects that you are working on with some of your artistry as well. But is the art side of things something that you've had in the tank for a long time and wanted to bring in, or are you just one of those disgustingly naturally talented, like, I'll just throw this in?
Answer that, Kev. We do need artists.
The art was this project was really a self-discovery project in a lot of ways. I really struggle with that sort of like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, putting work in front of others, that kind of like being perceived and judged is a huge thing for me. And for some reason, it hits my artwork more than anything else. Putting like a picture I've drawn out in front of someone for some reason feels so much more scary than I don't know, writing or putting like the game out in front of someone. So for me, over the last year, really sort of like leaning into, hey, this is art that that is me, instead of me trying to emulate other people's art and then being frustrated that it never looks good enough or it never looks like theirs does. This was a really good exercise for me to go, hey, this is what my art looks like and what I'm good at, what my style is, and not trying to sort of compare it to other people's. So I'm so glad you love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Deeply.
It was very much a, hey, I'm gonna get over this fear and just try and do this myself kind of thing. I don't know if that answers that question. I can't remember what the question was exactly. But
it certainly does for me.
The art.
I think that that is something that I hope that people listening, and it's one of the reasons that I do like the What's on Call series, stuff like that, is to hopefully people like yourselves and the people we chat to can be inspired to try things for themselves, because imposter syndrome is an absolute killer. We all suffer from it in some way, shape or form, and we have those areas that we sit really comfortable with, that we go, yes, I'm happy to put this out here because I know realistically I'm quite good at that. However, there's this area that now comes hand in hand with it that I think I suck at, and we do. And like when we get to these situations where, I can't say that I've published a game or anything, but you clearly have. And obviously, I hope that that's inspirational to people out there. And it bloody well should be, because it shows how much love, how much blood, sweat and tears you put into it. And the fact that, it's melded everything together so well. Yeah. And like, I know that when we did the overlay stuff, I was like, we have to use that. We have to throw that on there because it's so perfect to the rest of the system and to the mechanics of the game that I think that you should definitely give yourself a pat on the back and hopefully be the inspiration to somebody else out there who is looking to either write a game, publish a game, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do my own artwork, and Yeah, you've killed it. You've
Yeah,
absolutely
you
slayed
absolutely can. And thank you so much. And it was don't get me wrong, it's an element of, hey, I can't afford an actual artist. Yeah. And I'll be damned if I use AI ever. So for anyone who is thinking of putting their own things out there, you will be applauded so much more for doing your own style of art, even if it's little stickmen, if that's the vibe of your game, than doing AI or doing something crap like that. So don't be afraid of putting your own personal touch on stuff instead of doing the wrong thing at the end of the day. Yeah, but I thank you. That's really good.
No, and it is like the whole style of the system, from the artwork, from the cover page is just stunning, to the language you've used in writing it and setting up the system. I found myself sitting there reading it on the train chuckling, because I was like, that's very funny and very witty. But it's a pleasure to read the system. When I find kind of opposite to Ian, if I get a rule book, I'm like, no.
You hand me those bits.
Yeah. Like, anything that's too dry makes me want to kill myself.
Yeah,
literally. Yes.
Like, words. But I found myself reading it and cover to cover, and it was palatable, it was exciting and understandable, which again comes down to that kind of accessibility of the TTRPG, and it was just all round an absolute pleasure to play, to run, to read. My question then is, what's next for the Cunning Folk? Do you have any plans for it further than the digital publication?
Yes, the last few months have been hectic with life TM, but the next step for the Cunning Folk is to get it in physical copies. That was always my goal. I don't know whether, excuse me, I don't know whether it will be a Kickstarter or like a backer kit type thing, just to kind of like get the funds for the physical copies, or whether I'll be able to sort of do something through like an indie press, or there's conversations there that are happening. So I think in probably the first half of 2025 we'll start to really be looking at that physical copy process. So I would love to get a physical copy out in 2025 basically.
That'd be amazing.
And have that out and into the world, because I'm so glad that it is so accessible at the moment, and the digital copy is the best way to get it to as many people affordably for me. But it was made to be a storybook. Yeah. Basically, it was made to be sort of like, listen, my dream, I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford this because I think it'll be way too expensive, is to do one of those like hardback, sort of like the old Hans Christian Andersen style, sort of like embossed, like fairy tale book. Is it
delicious?
One day. Maybe like, I don't know, a special edition or something. But that would be my goal.
But you say that
one day,
and I think that's a very, very achievable dream for the Cunning Folk. I think that something that you've clearly done is taking it one step at a time, and you've gone, okay, so I have this idea, I want to play this game, and I do want to ask you kind of like, your history for TTRPGs, and I'll get to that in a bit, but you've obviously gone, right, well, I need this game that nobody else has done, so I'm going to create it. Where do I start? You then take the step, and then you take the next step, and you go from there. And I suppose what I'm getting at is that, like, if you keep taking it one step at a time, I don't think that's an unachievable dream. I think that that is very, very achievable, and I think the way you've done it, you are going to achieve that. I think that you are clearly motivated enough, and you are clearly, able to self-question and self-criticize in both a positive and a negative way. It clearly comes across that you are professional with what you do. So, I think you will achieve that dream if you keep stepping towards it. Why not?
Thank you. Thank you very much. 100%. And it goes back to that imposter syndrome of, I managed to kind of do that step with my art, do that step with my writing. as any creative I'm sure knows, it's very hard to market yourself and to sort of like put yourself out there and say, hey, buy my stuff.
Yeah, because you're essentially these days branding yourself.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, what we found here is that like we're having to brand ourselves rather than product and stuff, and then go from there. And I think that hopefully with interviews like this, that is kind of what's going to be happening for you, because the system deserves it.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Obviously with the Cunning Folk, hopefully going to physical copies and getting those out into the world, whichever way round that becomes and whichever way that is. Where did it all begin? Did you start as, like most of us, like D&D players? Did you start as, you know, just slinging some dice? Was it like narrative storytelling with friends? Where did Emily's journey begin in the RPG world?
World of Warcraft.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, my first foray into D&D was so many years ago. It was, I think, 3.5. A drunken college night. I can barely remember it. All I remember is that I was.
That's usually how these stories go. I got so drunk in college, I ended up playing 3.5.
Yeah, literally. Listen, I'm
London's rough.
And we had like pre-made characters. We were up until like 7 in the morning. It was absolutely atrocious. I was
Sounds
the
like
worst
heaven.
rogue known to man. But it was hilarious, and then there was nothing. There was a big void for like a decade, and that was when I was kind of really playing the World of Warcraft. I was playing games like that. I was like, Guild Wars was a huge thing for me. Like Elder Scrolls, Morrowind is my favorite, and probably will forever be that kind of like first thing. Fable 2 is a huge influence to me.
Fantastic
Like everything
game.
I've done moving forward.
Immaculate.
Actually, that shows. Actually, that checks.
Yeah.
If Fable 2 is like one of your favourite games, that checks with the Cunning Folk.
Yeah. It's just like, you want that humor, you want that whole thing. Terry Pratchett and all of that kind of fantasy series is a huge influence to me. So that sort of like marrying of fantasy, the sometimes very dark and really serious, but that humor, that sort of like that levity throughout is just like that's like the Venn diagram of awesomeness for me. So yeah, it was a lot of just playing MMOs really for a long time, and then I got into other systems before I went into D&D, because the people I was playing with at the time, the GM didn't really like running D&D because they felt it was kind of boring. So we played a lot of other TTRPGs, and then it was only maybe 2-3 years ago that I did start playing D&D properly, like 5e, and it's been branching out from there. It's been playing a lot of solo RPGs, like journaling RPGs, and sort of like this, finding things that I love, finding elements that I really like, and realizing I don't like very crunchy games, and that's just a me thing. A lot of people really like crunchy games, it's just not for me. And yeah, and then realizing, hey, there's a niche and there's a game that I really want to play that doesn't exist, and I'm gonna have to just make it myself.
Yeah.
If you want a job done, do it yourself, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's kind of the history of where I got to and where I am now, and my influences, for sure.
But I think that again is quite an inspirational thing. I think for anybody who is looking to either get into game writing, anybody who's like, oh, I've got an idea, or I want to play a game and it's not quite there, and I don't know how to play D&D, you know, anything like that. I mean, I say D&D because it's such a catalyst for so many people, but like it could be any game. But like you did it. You went, right, well, there isn't a game out there that I want to play, but I've got this idea, therefore I'm going to make the game. And I hope that, again, once more, people out there will see that you've done it and it is achievable. And hopefully that is an inspiration to other people as well.
100%. And I think like the big thing is like, don't look at games like D&D or sort of like a Pathfinder or some of those really big, like you look, there's like player handbooks like this thick.
Yep.
And then be daunted by that and say, hey, I have to create this entire world, this entire system, and it's going to have to be huge and really complex. Like there are so many zine-sized, leaflet-sized like TTRPGs out there. You know, like you can make it any size or complexity you want. Just go for it. Just whatever your attention span can manage, because mine can't manage a lot, so that's why mine's pretty short. So,
like, here's the bandwidth, work in it.
Yeah, it's a napkin. That's it. That's all it is.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's very true, and it is. You start. I think the more you play and the more you delve into the community, the clearer your style and your own preferences become, isn't it?
100%.
But yeah, and so kind of on the back of that, is there a particular system, obviously apart from the Cunning Folk, that you particularly vibe with, that you find is like has been your favourite to play?
Oh my goodness, that is tough. Having a look at my bookshelf.
Pick your favourite child.
It's tough.
I love that saying so much. Tell us who your favourite child is.
Oh God. Oh man, it is tough because there's so many that I like for different reasons, but I think I will go back to the Powered by the Apocalypse games, because they've been so influential, and there's so many different types.
Yeah.
That you could just pick. Oh, this is the perfect one. The one I do really want to play, because I think it will have a very similar vibe that I haven't managed to actually play yet, is the Kids On series.
Yes.
Which I think is very much in that sort of like the system structure that I really like, and I really want to get my hands on it. I want to do Kids on Brooms at some point. But yeah, I think those kind of the PBTA system at large is probably my favorite. Oh man, yeah. Listen, I've played Call of Cthulhu and Seventh Sea, and I've done a lot of the big ones. And then all the way down to simple things like Wander Home and the skeletons and things like that. So it's I've done a lot, but I just love that in the middle. I just love the
straight down the middle.
Structure, but easy. Yes.
But I think that's what's great within the TTRPG world now, because I mean, years ago, people, and they are the gateways, which is Pathfinder and is D&D, and they are the ones that people go, oh, you play tabletop games. It's either war games or RPG games, and they either go Warhammer or they go D&D Pathfinder. And you're right, they are massive core rule books. They are a lot to take in, and people like me who love crunching through it and going, give me all the mechanics, and then
give me the crunch.
So like people like me that way. But I think that we are now in a world where accessibility to so many different types is incredible, and I adore that, because I get to watch you do it at Happy Piranha, where you go, I'm going to use this now, and I'm like, that's amazing. Like I absolutely love that you'll take a system and take it somewhere and go, right, I'm going to go in and use this middle of the road system that I really, really like. And you've clearly as well gone, okay, well, let's write my own thing and let's go there. But you're adding to that that plethora, that pool of RPGs that I think people are going to love, and that people sometimes don't want to get that big core rulebook because they just want to play a one-shot, and they don't want to have to learn the Pathfinder core rulebook or the Starfinder core rulebook or any of those to play for 3-4 hours. You know, it's like I don't mind diving into those, but other people, that's like a hell of a lot of crunch. It is so much, and it's, you know, when you look at things like, okay, well, I've got to take this map's over here, and well, technically it's over here like this, and okay, and your neck beard starts really growing, and like, because it is fuel for that. And I think that we do need more systems like the Cunning Folk, and we need more systems out there that allow people to grab something with a couple of pages of a rulebook, and like one that is very palatable, like you said. And I think that is the perfect word, is palatable, because again, all well and good for people like me to just dive in and not talk to anybody for 2 days, but like for everybody else who's got life to do and like actually goes out and socializes, you are not going to remember those core rules. And what you've done is gone, right, well, you know, you're level 1, have 1 dice, level 2, have 2 dice, level 3, and that's it. And sometimes less is more, and I adore that so much. I think you have absolutely knocked it out the park. I guess what we need to ask as well, because it's something that we need to, we'll obviously put it down in in the description below for YouTube and stuff. Where can people find the Cunning Folk?
So at the moment it's on itch. So if you just search the Cunning Folk on itch.io, or if you look for Emily Greymoore on itch.io, you will find it all there. It's there for you to download and grab. I'm hopeful. I did have my own website for a little while, but it got very expensive.
It does, doesn't it? It's like shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Listen, it's all about saving money, baby.
It really is.
So yeah, it's there for anyone who wants it. But yeah, you can reach out to me on TikTok. I'm also on Blue Sky now. Just again, Emily Greymoore.
Are you happy for us to put all of those in the description below when you get
100%.
people to? Because you all need to go check out her work. Yeah. It is freaking awesome, and please do. Like, if we can just send even one of you over to Emily, we've won and we've done our job. But we'll make sure for you that they all go into the description below, and we'll do social media posts and stuff like that. But if we can, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I would. That's great. Thank you. And I know, like, when I say Emily Greymoore to a lot of Americans, they usually spell it the American way, and that's not the English way, Gray. So
don't worry, I can't spell.
It's all down there, I'm sure. Amazing. Yeah, it's so funny when I do these talks, and it's just like Emily Greymoore with an E in the middle, and at the end, and at the beginning. Just it's down there somewhere. It's fine. Just it'll be written down.
I genuinely looked over in the corner. I was like, but there is an E in it, and there is an E at the end. I was like, she doesn't know how to spell her own name.
Spelling.
Yeah.
So, what aside from the Cunning Folk, have you got any other like projects that you can talk about, or anything that you've got in the pipeline that's exciting you at the moment?
Yeah. So at the moment, like I said, the last few months have been a little bit chaotic for me personally. So sort of the big push of getting it published physically kind of got put on hold. So as I was kind of moving around the US and everything was in boxes, I started doing a silly little project called The Daily Quest, which is a fantasy newspaper which is inspired by sort of D&D, TTRPG shenanigans and sort of Terry Pratchett. So it's this ridiculous little news publication that I've been writing and illustrating, and I put it up for free on Patreon for anyone who wants to grab it. And it's just something that I'm kind of doing once a month. The first one's up now. I'm starting the second one, and that'll be up at the end of December.
Nice.
For anyone who wants it. So yeah, you can use it in your campaigns if you want. You can use it as inspiration. There's like character interviews if you want to use that for like NPCs or whatever you want to do. It's just there. I've been enjoying doing it. It's keeping my creative brain very happy because it's nice. I can do it in little segments, and I can practice like my writing and my art, and I can do it in little bits that's not serious in any way.
Fair enough.
So yeah, if you like the writing style of the Cunning Folk and you like the art style of that, then you'll love the Daily Quest. So yeah, you can find it all online. Again, you can find it in my link tree and all that kind of thing. It's all there. But yeah, that's the other thing I've been doing because I have no time to start another year-long project. So I decided to start a different monthly project, I guess.
I love that you said monthly, but called it the Daily Quest. I was like, you are doing daily content, you mad woman.
Girl math.
Yeah, I did one whole year of like daily dice rolls, which is literally me recording me rolling a d20, and even then after a year I was like, I'm done. Like, I'll get back to it in 2025, but I'm taking 2024 off. Like, for a second I thought you were doing daily 100%. Updates on Patreon. I was like, oh my god, I'd be charging through the roof for that.
Yeah, no, it's there's an in-law reason why it's the Daily Quest monthly edition, so you can read the paper and find out why that is. But yeah, it's a very silly project which is out there for anyone if they want it. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Did you've talked about the writing process and how that seems to be the thing that you really love, and that's your kind of creative outlet to begin with. Is that where everything started? Like, did you start as just going, I just like to jot down ideas, or were you like actually writing? Are you by trade a writer? It's where's that love come from?
Oh my goodness, I think it's such a wild thing because I never considered myself a writer ever, but I like to write how I talk and how I think, and this is going to sound really obnoxious or self-centered, but I like the way it's written. Like, does that make sense? Like, the way I think ends up working really well written down. It
translates well.
So,
it does.
Yeah.
As you were saying, like, it was a joy to read. I'm really glad because I like to write like I'm talking to somebody, like I'm sort of like, this is how I kind of like think and how I speak, and I think that it helps a huge amount to really especially when it comes to like the rules of a game, where it's just like, okay, you system.
You've got me. I'm in.
Yeah. Done, hooked. I think it makes a huge difference when you're actually kind of like explaining the rules or explaining a story. Like you're actually telling that to someone physically. Like I was sitting in front of you and explaining how it worked. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't consider myself a writer. I still kind of don't consider myself a writer. I just consider myself a jack of all trades, master of none. Kind of person. So it's like I'm kind of good at a few different things, which works very well for writing TTRPGs, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. The deciding to kind of sit down and write it. I had really enjoyed doing those like journaling RPGs. And that really kind of like set that sort of flame going. Like actually, these little stories I'm writing aren't bad. I could probably do something with this. I could probably actually make some money off of this somehow, maybe. And then yeah, the rest. And obviously the wanting to make my own game and sort of fill in that niche that was missing, I felt. But yeah, I don't think there was any one catalyst or anything that really made me feel like I needed to write something. I think it was just a mixture of all these things kind of culminating and coming together in this really perfect niche, which just kind of fitted really well. Yeah, it was an explorative thing for me, and it went better than I could have hoped. It was very good. So yeah, if that answers that question. I ramble. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, rambling is perfect.
We'd like a ramble. Yeah, but yeah, no, we loved playing the game here. I mean, to run it as a GM, as you say, all the things of like taking the pressure off, being able to really hand over to the players, and just sort of like help facilitate that world instead of having to kind of go, right, now you're going to do this and I'm going to put this here so you can do this. It made it, and I think the key thing is that you really captured the collaborative element of collaborative storytelling. And I think in all, your passion and your creativity just shines through in this system, like from beginning to end. And yeah, no, anyone who gets a chance to play it really should. It's such a fun little game, and there's so much scope that you can really truly make it entirely the game that you want it to be, which I think in terms of TTRPG is an absolute gift. And you know, thank you for writing it and putting it out into the world.
Absolutely. I think Steph again has hit the nail on the head there with her words, so I don't really need to add to that. I think just as a spectator to the game, it was a genuine joy to watch. I was like, I genuinely didn't have to do anything. I got to sit there and still like take part in a TTRPG just by watching within like this system, and it's a truly tremendous thing that hopefully people enjoy. We're going to put our little one shot out that you ran on the 11th, so it'll be, as we're recording this, technically next Wednesday. This interview will probably come out before that happens anyway. Yeah, and I hope that people go along. Please follow Emily Greymoore on all of her socials. Please go check out the Cunning Folk. Please go buy it. It's totally worth it just to have in your toolkit. 'Cause it is another tool to the RPG things that you can have behind your screen. It is.
And if you want it on your shelf before it goes to publication, which you should definitely then get if it's going to be that sexy, I printed it out on my home printer and I stitched it together on my sewing machine, bound it in packing tape. Yay! Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Could you hold that up, please? Because I realised we don't have a copy on this right here. So I mean, this is the front cover that we were talking about, that Steph was talking about.
So pretty.
It's so pretty, and So this kind of like you said about storybook earlier on, and it really does feel like a storybook. It really does, and as soon as you get that to physical publication, we'll certainly both be getting a copy. You'll be signing it for us, and then we'll pay for the shipping to get over here, because we are coming towards the end of, unfortunately, the time that we have for this interview. Unless you've got further questions that you would love to go with, I will let you lead.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much, Emily, for coming to chat to us, guys. Please go follow Emily on all of her socials. Go check out the Cunning Folk. If you're not liked and subscribed to the channel, do it.
That's us. I'm only thinking about her at the moment.
Dragonborn Industrials. Please go and enjoy watching our little game of the Cunning Folk, and then go and run your own feral, chaotic, folklore fun.
Yeah, please do. Emily, thank you so much for chatting to us.
Thank you.
If you stay where you are, we're going to close down the video and then we'll chat a little bit more outside of the recording. So yeah, thank you very much. Do you want to say the thing?
May the dice gods be ever in your favour.
Thank you very much, guys. We will see you all for the next video. See you later on.
Bye.
Bye.